So in today's video, we're going to talk about MCPs. Everybody's talking about MCPs. What the heck is an MCP? How to use your MCPs. How to actually set up your MCPs correctly. I can't even say the word, it's so crazy. MCPs have completely taken over the world right now in the AI agent, and they're just everywhere. But what exactly do they do? How can you use them in this situation like this? Or how can you even make a crazy workflow that looks something like this while using the agents to create amazing content? Before I get started, I am using Coolify to host my N8N. I have a whole video on how to set up your MCPs correctly. You're basically going to need to go to your configuration screen here and edit your compose file. You need to add this line to the bottom. After you add that, you're going to save it, restart your server, and your MCP should be available. I will leave links to all this stuff below too. Here is the actual N8N node MPC client that you need to get. I strongly recommend watching this video. This dude is the one that created a lot of this. He talks a little above my pay grade. He's a little more advanced than me when it comes to this stuff. I'm not the smartest person in the world. I'm going to show you how to set these up, how to do the command. I haven't tried too much of the SSE type of stuff. I've been watching too much basketball. I'll show you how to set up credentials. It's very easy, very simple to do. As you know, these are all the MCPs. There's more websites, but this is one of the main ones that has a lot of MCPs that are available. Now, I do have a spreadsheet. I'll probably leave a link to this below too, where I've actually been trying to use all of these. So I've tested almost 300 of these. Well, it's 263 MCPs. Now, I do want to mention the reference ones are usually good to use. The third-party ones are okay. But when it comes down to the community servers, I would be very cautious with these. None of these are actually tested and have been vetted. But some of them, you can trust. But there's a lot of them that I would not trust. There are a lot of crypto ones that involve using your wallet. And it's like, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, 30-foot pole. Wouldn't touch it. A lot of these also are duplicates. So like this Firecrawl one down here in the community one, I say use the MCP on row 43. So when you come up to 43, you will see that's actually where Firecrawl is. Now, once again, this is only for N8N. Okay, I've been using a lot of Claude Desktop and my VS Code for a lot of these too. I've been testing a lot of these out for fun. But for N8N, right now, this is where I'm at with where they work. If it's green, it means it does work. If it's this orange color, it means it works, but there might be a small issue. Sometimes it's just price. Like I am not spending $50 a month to make sure this one works. I'm sorry. The light olive green colors here, like Puppeteer, it works, but it doesn't because you need a way to open up a browser. And I'm working on it. I think I figured it out, but that's another video. Appify works, kind of. I think Appify, you have to do the SSE connection, and I have all that information here. Firecrawl works too, but there's token issues, which I'm working on, and I can't seem to get it to work right. There is one for make.com. This one works, but I'm having little issues again. Airbnb works. The Airtable one down here actually works great. So if you want to add your Airtable account to your MCP, it can do a ton of things, and it's pretty dang cool. This college football data one is really cool, but unfortunately it's only a Claude Desktop or a local use type of one, but it's really cool. Any of the Google ones, right now they're all hit or miss. I don't know why. I think it's API issues with Google. It's more on Google side than it is on N8N or our side. The NASA one here is really awesome. That's the one that we're gonna use the most today. And I found this one here, this virtual traveling bot environment. This is like super cool, and I would seriously check this one out, but I think it's only available for local use, like on VS Code or something. I think Claude Desktop, it might work. But it's like you basically tell your MCP to go on a journey and go traveling. And it'll use like Google Maps and take like selfies and stuff. It's crazy. The YouTube one, once again, that's tied to Google. Google Like I said, I think it's more of a Google issue. Now, as you see too, on this sheet here, I have the URL that takes you to the actual product for the MCP. I also have every single GitHub link. And then here we have our commands, our arguments, if there's an API involved, and then we have the environment variables. Now, some of them have multiple variables that I'm not even going to list on here because, like with AWS, there's a ton of different services. So you're going to have to probably set up different MCPs for each service. But this is how you're going to set up your credentials, though, in N8N. If we just go to this N8N here that I have, that I'm just testing with, the way you're going to set up a credential, you're just going to click on this, search MCP, but just pick a tool. You can pick any of them to start with because you can change them all right here. And I'm going to go over all of these individually. But then to set up your credentials, as you can see, I have a whole bunch of them set up already. You're just going to go ahead and create a new credential. And like I said, I'm only using the command line. I haven't tried much with the server sent events. I know it works, but it's a little more complicated. I'll have to work on that more before I can make a video because I'll probably sound like an idiot. But then as you can see, we have a command, we have arguments, and we have environment. So if I go back to my spreadsheet here, so like when it comes to Brave Search, so like Brave Search, we all know that works because everybody's done a video on Brave Search. So when it comes to the Brave Search here, we need our command, our arguments, and our API key. Now this is how you have to set up your API key for each one of these. It has to be like this. That's the way, God, what's his name? That's the way they set up the environments to work. And your arguments need to be written like this. So like if I go to the GitHub here, you can see that the arguments are written like this. You don't need the commas and you don't need the apostrophes because the way they set up the MCP is that it basically does all that for you. Like I said, if you want to understand it more, I would seriously watch this video. I'm not the best person sometimes talking about this stuff, and I know my limitations. But to set up an MCP account again, once again, so say we're going to use Brave, the first thing I would do is change this to the right one. Now, I already have Brave set up, but I'm just going to call it like Brave 3. But I would keep MCP so you know which one it is. Your command is going to be npx. And if we just go to the spreadsheet here, you can go to the arguments. We'll just copy that, put that in there. So I would go over here to expression so you can actually see what you're doing. But then for your variable, you need to take this in. You're just going to copy that in and then put your actual API key in here. Whatever random line of code that it is. And then go ahead and click save. And like I said, you can see I have set up tons of these already because I've been testing these out like crazy. I've deleted a lot of them because they just didn't work. But as you can see, I've got a lot of them going on here. So it's really freaking cool. Now, before we set up the MCPs with an agent too, I've been trying tons of these with all different combinations of things. It's absolutely crazy. But before we go ahead and attach anything to an agent, what I like to do just to make sure the tool works properly is go ahead and go into your tool, select which tool you want to use. So I'm going to use the NASA one here, which as you can see, I just have set up like this, the NASA one. Now the API is free for NASA and they do limit you to 1,000 requests an hour, which is probably more than anybody would ever need for NASA. And then here is your arguments, and that's how you'll do your environment variable. And once again, it is a free API. You just go to the API page, which is on the spreadsheet here. So you can see it says NASA API. All you do is sign up. They send you an email right away. There are a ton of things you can get from this API. So your MCP can get pretty much any of this information, which is awesome. Every NASA API does have its own GitHub with how to actually use it. But luckily, since we're using MCPs, we don't have to worry about any of this information. So that makes it awesome. Once again, set it up. Make sure you always change the name of your MCP. This is what I like to do first, is just go ahead and click new, search for MCP. And then as you can see, MCP client. And you can pick any of these to start, because then you can just always change what resource you want to use. Now, the first thing I like to do is after you pick your whichever MCP you want to use, just click on List Tools and then test the step. And what this will do is give you a list of tools. So at least you know that your API is working and everything's working correctly. I think I'm having internet issues. As you can see, after I run it, it gives me all the tool names for each one. So here's the tool name, here's the schema, here's the tool name, here's the schema. And it's nice too, because when your MCP searches for this, it remembers all that, so it knows how to send the data correctly. Because even if we look in here, so you can see here's the name of the tool, here's the description of it, here's how to use it. I mean, this is extremely powerful. Now, the next part I want to go over is how to actually set up an agent and with all of these various MCPs and what they all do. Now, this is just a basic tool agent. So if you just click Advanced AI and then AI agent, this is all that I'm using. Now, when it comes to the AI, I would use a current good model. Claude 3.7 works amazing with it. 3.5, it's okay. Anything lower, though, you're going to run into issues. Same thing goes with ChatGPT. If you use anything lower than like 4.0, you're going to have issues. DeepSeek seems to work okay. Claude is obviously the best right now, but I know it's the most expensive. But you need to seriously test them all out, because I could change this to like a different one and it would error out every time. And then I'll put it back on Claude. Everything works great. So just know that. Now, I would set up a simple memory for these, because that way it remembers the tool names. So when it comes in here and gets the tools, it understands it. So I would use a memory. You don't have to. And if you don't use a memory, then basically it's going to go into list tools every time to find the current tools, which is fine. And now here are the 6 tools that are available. So if you click on any of these, you can see that there's 6 tools available. These 2 are the bare minimum that you're going to need to run your MCP server. You need list tools and execute tools. I'll go over these ones too, but these 2 are the ones that you actually need to run it. You'll always need to set up the list tool one first, because the MCP needs to know what tools it can use. So that's why you want to do this one first. You just set it automatically. Yeah, don't try to do anything manually. Let the AI do its thing. After that runs, it'll know what tools it has. So when you actually ask it a question, it then can go into execute tool. I have been working with this one for way too much, and this is the only way I can get this to work. So when it comes to tool name, it's supposed to be the name of the tool, which if we open this one again, you can see that the tool name on this one is NASA APOD, picture of the day. But if I hard code that in here, it errors out 99.9% of the time. I had to use this expression, which you can go ahead and copy paste that if you want. I'll leave it down below too in the description to help you guys out. Even when I was trying this without this like populate at the end, it still wasn't working, but when I seem to use this exact prompt, it seems to work. And then when it comes to tool parameters, don't worry what that says. But to set this up, you see right here how it's got this AI box. There's a little box right here with a bunch of stars. Just click that and let it be defined by the model. So that way your AI will figure out how to use the tool correctly. You don't have to tell it how to do it. Now, I wish they had that for the tool name. Maybe they can add that later. But for now, that's all we're doing. Just make sure you are on the correct credentials. Set the tool. Just set that automatically. We're doing the execute tool. And then, like I said, just set those up like that. And with those 2 set, you're pretty much good to go. So if I just open the chat, I can ask it a simple question. Now, as you can see, that one is going into list resources and list prompts. It sometimes doesn't get really good information from that, but I want to show you what the results is from this. It's like, here's the several NASA related tools I have available. So there's actually, this one showed prompts, which is weird. What did I ask it? I said tools. Okay, so I'm going to try it again to see if it actually just lists the tools and doesn't do the prompts and stuff. Okay, so there's the actual response I wanted. So here's the tools that it has, pretty much all of these, which is really cool. But how would I use that for this project here? So I could ask it, what NEOs? So I'm just going to ask it a simple question. What NEOs was NASA watching in January 2025? And then as you can see, it's going to go through, it's going to search its memory first. So it didn't have to go back into the tools. See, it went right to execute tool. So if you get rid of the memory, it'll have to go to the tools every time. But if you leave the memory, it should just go, it knows right where to go. It's going to bounce around a few times, bouncing around more times than it usually does. See, I want to show you though how when it actually searches, so I gave it this prompt and see how it picked the tool NASA/Neo because that's the tool name, see? And then here's the response that it found for that specific Neo, which is a near Earth object in case you didn't know. I hope it's still running. Another thing you might want to set up in your actual agent here is add an option for max iterations, because right now I think the standard is 10. So if this hits 10, which I don't know what it's doing right now, I've never had this issue. I don't know what it was doing, so I'm going to try this one. Give me a list of Neos between 3.125 and 3.725. Let's see if this one works better. Goes into the tool, it searches for the correct thing. It's looking for the Neo objects between that. It found 118 of them. It's kind of scary, isn't it? And then it should give me a response. Okay, so after it did that, I remember I asked it. So here's what I got. I got a summary of Neos for March 7. So there's how many Neos were distributed, potentially hazardous ones. Here's all the ones that, you know, are kind of bad. Here's the closest ones. And then, of course, there's some larger ones. And then, of course, it asks if I want any more specific information about these Neos or other aspects of this data. And you can really, really dig into this. I'll ask it now. So now I'm going to ask it if it can get pictures for me. So as you can see, once again, it goes right into the tool. Now it is actually trying to read the resource. Now this one seems to error out on me a lot. Even though everything's set up correctly, it seems to pull this error too many times. But as you can see, it found an image and it's actually trying to find more information on it. But of course, this read resource one, this one is hit or miss. And I'll show you what these actually mean. So if I go to list resources, so here's the NASA. So we'll pick NASA again. And then I'm going to go to list resources. And if I test this step, it's going to give me a bunch of resources. You know, picture of the day, all this stuff. And then what we should be able to do, if we just go MCP, make sure we set up the right prompt. And then I want to go, so if I go to read resource and then it says resource URI, which is this right here. So if I drag one of these in and test it, it should give me information about that resource. And once again, this is hit or miss, especially with the MCP. I don't know why, but I mean, here's some basic information on it. So this one is sometimes a hit or miss. Now, another one that's a hit or miss, depending on what tool you're using, is list available prompts. So if I go to the NASA one again, and I'm just going to list prompts, this one is hit or miss. If you're using something like Airtable, this one works. Oh, look at this one gave me something. So, I mean, here's some prompts, though. So, I mean, you could tell it to get these prompts, and then it will actually use it in your workflow. So it did have an issue grabbing the images, which is funny because I've never had that before. Yeah, you need list tools and execute tools for a bare minimum for your MCP to work. Now, once again, you can do the list resources. You can try the read resources, which I don't know why it was erroring out because I was showing you how it was working last time. Get prompts. That's another powerful one where it can actually find the prompts. For the NASA one, doesn't seem to work that well. Airtable, it seemed to do good. And then, of course, you can have it list the prompts where it can find the prompts. Now, another cool thing I want to show you is that if you set up multiple agents like this, they can all tie to the same MCP. So that way you don't have to set up 5 different ones for every single thing. What we can do though is I don't have the get prompt. So let's go ahead and change this to NASA. I'll put it to get prompt. And then once again, I'm going to use this little AI thing. It'll find out what it needs to send itself. So if we just add this here, and then all you would have to do is on your next agent, just drag this down to here. And on this one, we can just drag that down to there. And so now all 3 of these agents have access to the MCP, and I didn't have to copy these 6 times, you know, go put 6 here, put them there, and each one of these can read. Now, once again, depending on what you're actually doing, so like I set up this crazy, Neo thing to find Neos and to create articles and to create like a YouTube transcript. So like the first one here, I'm just saying, you're a helpful assistant. And because we're talking about future Neos, I have it respond in a future tense active voice. Now for the first step, I am just using ChatGPT 4.0, which works great. And then for the next step, I am telling it to create a video script. And then I tell it to use the MCP servers to retrieve more data if needed. And then once again, I'm asking it to talk in a future tense voice because once again, we're talking about the Neos for the week of. So I want it to talk in future tense, not past tense, or not in current tense. It'll say like, so today's the 21st. So if I had one where it says, this Neo, came by us on March 31st, and it's like, but dude, it's only the 21st. So you have to make sure you tell your AI what to do. It's all connected to all the same servers. And then this here, I'm actually having it find images and URLs from NASA. So one nice thing about NASA is that all of their images and videos are all free to use. There's no copyright on them. I mean, you can say you got it from NASA, but there's no restrictions on any of their stuff. There is occasionally an image that might be copyrighted, but it's like 1 in a million on NASA's website, and NASA has tons of pictures. They probably have more pictures than you will ever want to need. And they're all extremely high quality. They're awesome, and you can download all of these. I mean, you have different sizes, tons of cool videos. Here's the SpaceX crew returning. But like if we were to search Neos, we have all these cool videos that we can use. Like here's just a picture of a rock. It's a 2-minute picture of a rock rotating. But I mean, it's a global model of asteroid. I'm not going to butcher that name. But like I said, you can download all these. You can download the originals. Most of these are in 4K. So amazing stuff. So like I said, this MCP, I'm having it search. Now I did mention max iterations. If you have this set low, it will time you out. So you might want to bump that up depending on how much money you want to spend. I'm going to show you now what all of this will do for you by giving it a simple prompt. So I just had my internet go down, so I had to restart. Okay, so I'm going to give it, can you give me a list of Neos between 324 and 331 and use NASA? I have a filter set up. So I'm going to send it to it. So the first agent is going to go through, it's going to find the tools it needs, it's going to execute, it's going to find a current list of Neos that are going to be in this time frame. And then after it finds that, it's going to go to the next agent, which is then going to give me a simple script. So as you can see, it's going through the list of tools to see if it needs to look for anything. And then it's going to the execute tool. So it is looking for something. So it's looking for Neos in that time frame. And then it's going to write a simple script. And then this next agent is going to find me pictures. So if I wanted to make the video, I then have, pictures and videos that I can use from NASA. Because once again, NASA is, all their stuff is free. Oh, there's no copyright on it, I should say. I mean, you should give them credit if you do decide to do something like this. You should always give people credit, right? Then as you can see, it's going to the next one now. So it's looking at the tools, knowing if it needs what tools it needs. And then it's going to probably look for pictures. So it'll go to the execute one. There it goes. And then just like that, if I go into here, you can see that I have a total script. So let's just see what that looks like. And so here's what I got from that. So after that was all said and done, so here's the script that I got. Cosmic close calls, Neo's heading our way, March 24 through 31 of 2025. Obviously, I would clean this up. It is AI, so... But I mean, as you can see, it gives us a pretty good list of everything. Sunday will feature 13 passing space rocks. And then the other module, it gave me images and videos. So like for the first part of this segment, I can use this video. Is that a video or is that so like this is a picture. So if we just copy that, that's cool. NASA images are so cool. Did get a video here. Got a video here that we could use. So that is a really cool way that how you can use MCPs in your workflows. Now, I do want to show you another way to use this, and I am going to start this one from scratch for you guys. So we're just going to go to Advanced AI, AI Agents. We're going to trigger it by a chat prompt. So let's just delete that. I don't know exactly what we're going to do yet here. But for our chat model, I'm going to pick Anthropic because, like I said, I know that one works the best. We're going to give it some memory so it remembers. You can actually bump this up if you want. But then here's the fun part. So we're going to do MCP. And once again, we're going to do list tools. Always have list tools as your first one. So let's do Airtable. So list tools. And you might want to rename these so you remember what you're doing. Then I also need more MCPs. So we're going to do Airtable. Let's do NASA, list tools. And then let's do another one, which I'm going to set up as Brave, list the tools. Okay, so now that I have all of these set up, I want to make sure it can actually read all these tools. So I'm going to ask it, what tools can you use? List all. We have Brave tools, so we can do a web search. We have NASA tools, and we have Air tools. Look at all that. Now, the next thing we need to do is set up execute tools for all of these. Now, I think we could just duplicate these and then just drag this to here. And then instead, we'll leave that one on Airtable. And this one, I'm going to want to do execute tool. Now, just to save myself some time here, I am just going to copy this from my other one. So when it comes to tool name, like I said, you need to put this in there. And then when it comes to the parameters, we're just going to let the AI decide the parameters. So this one's for Airtable. We're going to execute that tool. So that one will go there. And so we'll duplicate this one. So we're just going to do NASA automatically. We want to do execute. So tool name, I'll just paste that in there. We'll hit the AI button. And then for Brave, we'll duplicate that one. And we'll connect it. And then we want to do execute. And then tool name, we'll just paste that. And then do that. So right now we have all that set up. And once again, these are really the only two that you need. You can set up the other 5 or 6 if you want, but this is how you would set this up for Airtable, NASA, and Brave. Okay, so now that we have all that set up, I went ahead and created a NASA Neo's Airtable base here. So what I'm going to do is open up the chat and say, can you see my Airtable base? So let's go ahead and send that, because once again, you want to make sure it can read it. This happens a lot. So what happened was somewhere in its search, it gave the wrong prompt. So I think I'm just going to add all the other modules just to be safe. So give me a second on that. Okay, so once again, when it comes to Airtable, you're actually going to probably have to get your Airtable ID, which is in your description, and it's a very long string. I'm going to ask it again. Let's see if we can even figure out what I just gave it. So after all that was said and done, it finally said, I found the resource you asked about. So I gave it my app name, which it tells me that there's the Airtable base. Here's the table, specific views. It gives you all of the information that's currently available on that spreadsheet. I'm going to throw it off by deleting all these. So now we have blank rows. Okay, so now that I know it can read it, I'm going to ask it to update this. Now, once again, we're going to try this, testing it. Sometimes this doesn't work. Let's see if it can do it. So I'm just asking it to change the field name to week. So we'll see if it actually does that on here. Okay, so one thing you're going to have to do in your Airtable account is make sure you give it all the scopes. So I didn't give it all the scopes. It found everything, but it didn't know what it was actually doing. So I went ahead and updated everything. Let's see if it can actually do what I asked it now. Okay, so after I updated its permissions, I'm going to tell it, I updated your permissions. Please update, change the field. Let's see if it does it now. Okay, so once again, it can see my Airtable again. It now sees that it has new information. So what I'm going to do, so one thing to help out with your Airtable too is to add this record ID so you can actually see it, which is just using a simple formula and then just typing in record ID with the 2 apostrophes. And so what I'm going to tell it here is, can you give me a list of NEOs between this date, use NASA, but also search Brave for any relevant information. After getting from the information from NASA and or Brave, update the Airtable record. That one. And then as you can see, I have one called NASA Notes and one called Brave Notes. Okay, so this is going out on a limb here to see if this will actually work. So I'm telling it to give me a list of NEOs, use NASA, but also search Brave for any relevant information. After getting this information from NASA or Brave, update the Airtable record, and I gave it the record ID. Put NASA information in the NASA Notes and the Brave information in the Brave Notes. So we have NASA Notes, Brave Notes, and then I'm telling it to update the status. And then of course here's the record ID. Will this work? Let's go. So you can see it searched NASA first. It got the NASA information. It's now searching Brave, which I knew we'd have an issue. And as you can see, it actually went back into the tools to see if it could use it. And I don't know what errors it's having. It's actually getting an output. I don't know what the first error was. First error, it did it wrong. So then it went back into the tools and found the correct information. It's now trying to read my Airtable, but you can see how it first went in there, tried to do it itself, and then went, oh, that didn't work. So it went back into tools and said, oh, there's what I need to do. And then it actually searched correctly. Then you can see it went back into list tools for Airtable to see if it could figure out how to fix its issue here. It should go to execute tool in a second, and there it goes to execute finally. Oh, and I forgot to change the iterations. So once again, you have to change the iterations or else it's going to time out like that, especially using a big list of things like I was just doing. As you can tell, I mean, it looks like it was doing everything it should. Go ahead and try it again. Now I'm actually going to clear the chat and let's try it again. Okay, so I had another error again. It just has total issues with this read resources. I don't know why. Maybe I need to define the model. So I think what I'm just going to do is delete this, save it. We're going to try again. Let's see how it does this time. Now, I think one thing I could do to speed up this Airtable process is to add an Airtable node in between the chat and the agent where it actually gets me all this information, because then I could feed that into the agent and it should work. But I'm trying to see if it can do it without any of my intervention at the time. And once again, we got another error, did not match. Okay, so since I have failed twice, I'm going to go ahead and add an Airtable module, and I'm going to, okay, so we're going to try this again. I'm actually going to give it the Airtable actual module to try to use this time. Let's just try this again. It seems to be having an issue with the schema of the Airtable base tools. Like I said, the Airtable ones don't seem to work that well. I've gotten it to work in the past. Today, it doesn't want to work. And this is my third attempt. I'm not going to try again after that. So you can see it tried to do it, but then for some reason it's forbidden. Okay, so after way too much work there. So here's the NASA notes that it gave me. Here's the Brave notes that it gave me. And it says that it could not update due to permissions issues. So once again, I gave it all the permissions. I just don't think these Airtable MCPs work correctly. I mean, I think I would just add these Airtable modules to let it update, because the MCPs just don't seem to work for Airtable. I've gotten it to work on other things. I'm kind of at a loss on that one. But I think on that note, I'm just going to go ahead and end this video here. If there's anything you'd like me to try or anything you'd like to see, let me know. I'll leave all the links and the spreadsheet down in the description. Other than that, have fun with this. Get out there and play with it. Get it to work right. Tell me what I'm doing wrong so we can all make this work the best. So other than that, see you again. Have a good one.